Well, welcome to Beyond Energetics. I'm so excited, Doris, for you to be here. I feel like I've been watching your work on Instagram for a long time and only recently realized I wasn't actually following you. I was watching. And I know I've been to your home in the past and we've talked. And so I was blown away that we weren't friends on Instagram. It's like, how did this happen? So I'm so excited that you're here and we get to talk and just dive into life and how you got here. So, for those of you who might be listening who don't know Doris, I'd love for you to share with us who you are beyond the Instagram profile, right? I know you hold a lot of different hats, a lot of different titles from sound healing practitioner to chef. Is that correct? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Doris beyond all those titles and beautiful positions you hold in your life.
So beyond all of the things that I talk about online, I'm
Yeah.
also a mother of two. I don't often talk about that. I don't often bring in a lot of my personal life into the online world just because uh, there's a lot of people out there. So I have two beautiful children. I live out in the country in the middle of nowhere next to the cows, which I love. I'm currently engaged and we're going to get married this summer. So, also super exciting. Um,
Congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, very happy about that. Um, and yeah, I try to talk about as much as possible online that um, will, I feel, potentially help someone out there. That's my main goal, is to just share information that someone might read and be like, oh, maybe I should look into that.
Mhm.
I'm more about the do your own research, dig deep type of person where I might plant the seed for you, but you need to go further for yourself if you really want to dig deep, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You have to help yourself, and especially in the medical world, it's something that I feel like we're still so seen as parts of a car, and it's like let's kind of dive into the garden that we are. It's not all separate little automobile parts. We are so interconnected in every
Mhm.
aspect of who we are, not only as a human, but as someone who's existing in this universe, on this planet, right? From the connection to the earth we step on, to the trees, to the animals, it's all so interwoven. And I think we forget that. And I think that's where a lot of us find we're coming back to right now, especially getting diagnoses or having health scares or just not getting answers or even being dismissed by our medical professionals, right? I think the system is long overdue for an overhaul or rather
Yeah.
reversal. Like, let's take it back a little bit to the roots. And I know part of what you do is based on your story and how you've healed yourself and how you've really stepped into doing your own research and taking radical responsibility for your health. And would you share a little bit about how that journey's been for you? Because I know it's ever evolving, right? We're continuously learning day by day and growing and niching down into different aspects of our own personal health. So, for someone who's maybe having a little bit of a health scare right now, I would love for you to share your journey and what it's really been like for you.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up the car analogy because I often use that in my practice as well, but kind of in a different perspective where I say, if you bring your car into the mechanics and they say, hey, this part's broken, they're not going to be like, let's remove it and your car will be fine, right? Every time something's broken in your car, you have to fix it. And you have to in order to have your car running.
Yes.
So it's always interesting to me that in our own physical bodies, you can go into the doctor's office and they can be like, hey, you don't need that part, actually. You'll be fine without it.
Cut it
Let's
out.
just take it out. Yeah.
You don't need a gallbladder or anything else, chop it out.
Yeah. So that was kind of not kind of, that's exactly what happened to me when I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer back in 2013. And they told me that my only option was to remove my entire thyroid and then go on radioactive treatments and then be on medication for the rest of my life because I would now need hormone replacement therapy. And all of that sounded insane to me, to remove a vital organ, which at the time I didn't even know what a thyroid was or what it did or anything about it. So I remember asking them what would happen if I stopped taking the medication. And they said you would die a slow, painful death. And I was like, okay,
Oh
but
no.
I'm only 28. So what does that mean for me long term?
Mhm.
Because are there studies that show that this is safe? Am I going to live till I'm 85? You know, what does this mean? And they didn't have any answers for me because they don't know. Um, and that's when I just started feeling like this can't possibly be my only option. It didn't make any sense in my mind that my body could create tumors and cancer, but then I couldn't reverse that myself as well. You know, the logic behind it just wasn't making any actual sense in my brain. So I took some time, even though they really, really pressure you into making decisions and choosing right away and rushing you into everything and saying really horrible things to you. Um, I slowed down and I took 6 weeks to dive deep. And that doesn't mean that I only chose to research the alternative side. I researched all the sides. I went and saw the specialist. I talked to a thyroidectomist. I did all the things. So I truly believe you can only make a proper informed decision once you've researched all avenues, all possible paths available to you. That's how you make an informed decision. Um, so that's what I did. And that's when I discovered all the things that I discovered.
Tell I'm like, tell me about those things, but I wanted to just circle back for a quick second and how the body heals itself, right? How can we grow tumors and not be able to heal them? I think something I say quite often is, well, if we can get a paper cut and we can heal from it, why can't we heal everything else in our body? Right? I feel like our mind is such a barrier to what the human body can actually do. And I think part of that is believing. And
Oh, yeah.
like you said, when you research, it's researching every aspect of that. And then once you make that decision, I feel like that decision is based on this deep inner knowing and this inner belief that it just amplifies that healing 100,
Oh, yeah.
100%.
100%. Mindset is half the battle. As
Absolutely.
soon as you believe something fully, without a doubt, there's no way for it to not be true.
Absolutely.
That's the energy surrounding it now. So 100% it's going to work.
Right?
Right? It's just, it has to.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about, so you've got to the point where you've done your research and you've come to that point where you're making your decision. And then what happens from there? Because I know there's probably just from being a nurse for 10 years, I know there'd be a lot of pushback. And you mentioned awful things, and I'm like, I've witnessed a lot of those awful things. And I wish I knew then what I knew now and could have intervened from a mental aspect to support people. But tell me what that was like, because a lot of women that I've talked to not only feel dismissed, but plowed over in their decision and made to feel really shameful about
Mhm.
that decision. What was that like for you?
It was awful. I'm not gonna lie. It was really, really terrible. Um, Oddly enough, at the time, I didn't have a family doctor. We have a family doctor shortage crisis in our area, as you know, and most of Canada, right? Um, but at that time, I did not have a family doctor. So every time I went in, I talked to a completely new person, a completely new temporary family physician that was there. I had to start over, tell them the story, everything. So that was really frustrating. But looking back at it now, it was probably kind of a blessing because I never had one person who was pushing me all the time. I just have to start fresh. But that being said, when I saw the thyroidectomist in a hospital in Toronto, they had me in a little room waiting for the doctor. Um, they had all my scans and everything up on like a screen up on the wall. And I remember just sitting there in this tiny little room. And then the doctor walks in and he had three other, what are they called? Like student doctors with him. And they walked in and he starts pointing at the screen and saying doctor words. And like, I'm completely invisible. I didn't even exist in this room, in this space. And he's talking to them about me while I'm sitting there. And I had to intervene and say, excuse me.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah, this is my appointment. Those are my scans. How about you talk to me about me? And so he did. He started talking to me. And at that time, I was still pretty new to the whole medical world and all the things that came along with it, including terminology and all the things that they say to you, that I had to slow him down and say, I need you to explain that to me because I don't understand what you're saying. So he did. Um, and I'm not surprised that a thyroidectomist told me I had to remove my thyroid. Obviously, I wasn't going in thinking that he'd be like, "Oh no, you're fine." um, but so he told me, "Yeah, you need to have a complete thyroid removal surgery." The same thing everyone else had told me, and at that point, I had already basically made my decision on going the natural route and trying the holistic medicine. So I told him that I appreciate his advice and everything, but I have decided to go with holistic medicine. And he literally started laughing at me, pointed his finger in my face in front of all the other student doctors there and said, I don't know anything about holistic medicine, but I know that it doesn't work and you'll be back. And I was like, I at that time wasn't nearly as strong as I am now, 12 years later. So I just started bawling because I couldn't even believe that he was talking to me like that, let alone laughing at me. So I walked out of there in tears. And my friend had taken me to this appointment. She was waiting for me in the waiting room, and I come out crying, which is not unusual for me. I'm pretty sensitive. But she was like,
Overwhelming.
what? Right? She's like, what happened? So I told her, and she was like, that he's right, you will be back. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you'll be back to prove him wrong. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, okay, yeah. But that was something I think like a core memory that was made that I'll never forget, that moment that I was treated so poorly. Um, and otherwise, no one questioned what I was doing afterwards because, again, I didn't have a team, I didn't have a doctor, I didn't have anything like that. I did see all the specialists, but then once I said no, thank you, they're like, okay, bye. Um, so basically, I just continued getting ultrasounds for the first year every 3 months and then every 6 months and so on and so forth. Now I still get them annually, but I also didn't get them during COVID because I wasn't essential. So there was a few years there where I didn't get any. Um, but I do remember the ultrasound tech who I saw, because again, small town, small hospital, was the same person every time I went. I can still tell you how many ceiling tiles there are in that room. She saw that my tumors were shrinking and she thought that I was on some like trial drug, some test, because she couldn't believe what she was witnessing. So she asked me one time, she's like, oh, do you mind me asking like what trial drug you're taking? Or because whatever it is, it's working. And I was like, oh, I'm not doing that. I just completely changed my entire lifestyle. And she was blown away. And she's the only person in the medical world at that time that asked me any questions, that wanted to know more. that was blown away by what was happening. Everyone else was just like, oh, it's a miracle. Like, I don't think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a miracle because you took like control of your health and proved them wrong, right? And they can't
yeah.
believe they've been so, from what I've witnessed in my own health journey, is that I feel like they've been so indoctrinated to spew information and it's like they've put blinders up a little bit. And so to step out of that, like we know with anything, when we step outside of that box, sometimes it's like we can't fathom what can actually happen. So we place it as a miracle or some like, unexplainable event where it's like, actually, I know you've been taught for however many years you've been in this business that it has to be this way and there's no other options, but there is another option. And sometimes it takes that repetition to really let it sink in. I think we're seeing more of that. People really being able to heal themselves. I know
Mhm.
last week I was talking to a woman who healed herself from stage 4 liver cirrhosis. And her
Wow.
main thing was her belief. And then she brought in her team of holistic practitioners as well. It's very similar to how you curated your team. And it's amazing what we can do.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering now, like for maintenance, and I know you teach a lot, what's maybe like if you were to have like a satchel with your top 3 things that you would do right now if you were given that diagnosis or in that state of fear that this might be what's going on, what would you suggest for someone to do?
Good question. Top three things. I mean, it's all so individual because every cancer is different and every person's different, but I'd really take a really close look at your diet. Number one, food is everything. Um, if you're able to put yourself into a state of ketosis through your diet, that is key to killing cancer cells. So that's number one. Number two, I would definitely, depending on the type of cancer, look up and look into different supplementations that are available for that. Alternative therapies, there's tons out there. A lot of them are suppressed, a lot of them are banned in Canada. So you might have to travel to Mexico. There's an amazing place in Mexico called Hope for Cancer, and they do all the things that I wish I could have done, but I couldn't afford to go. So I just did my own research and took bits and pieces of everything that I found that I could do myself at home and did that. Um, and number three, get moving. No matter how hard it is, no matter how much energy you have, even a walk around your house, just get your lymphatic system moving. Those are the 3 major things I'd say. On top of that, ensure that your liver is functioning because your liver is your detox center. So it's super important to make sure that it's functioning well along with your lymphatic system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I just want to circle back because you said about going into ketosis. Is that how you say it? Because I can't speak today and I apologize. It's been one of those weeks. Tell us a little bit how you do that, what that is and how you would do that. Because
Mhm.
I think that's something that no matter what your budget is, no matter what your income is, you can do that
Yeah,
pretty
a
quickly.
hundred percent. There's so many things out there that are free for health.
Mhm.
And ketosis is one of them, and fasting.
Yeah.
So, fasting is a way to get your body into ketosis. Now, personally, I did not do fasting, but I know many of my clients do. I know many cancer patients who have. And so, after a certain amount of hours of fasting, also depending on your body will go into ketosis. So, that's one way. Another way is through diet. So, through diet, what happens is you need to eliminate most carbs. Usually, for most people, you have to stay below 20 grams of carbs per day for your body to go into ketosis. And it doesn't happen instantaneously either, usually after 48 to 72 hours. It depends on your body. Um, but yeah, low carbs also will put your body into a state of ketosis. And what ketosis means is that your system is running off of ketones rather than glucose. So your metabolism has two fuel sources, ketones or glucose. And if you have insulin resistance, which most cancer patients do, your glucose stores are fueling your cancer. So you have to eliminate that and run off ketones, which is also amazing for an incredible amount of diseases and disorders. It's wild how much ketones and running off of them can heal you. So that's ketosis basically. Yeah.
Amazing. And you mentioned diet. What would you suggest for diet? I know you talk a lot about like carnivore meat diet. I
Mhm.
know I was having a lot of symptoms a couple months ago, and I went right into like the carnivore diet, and I felt so much shift happen in my body and my mind. Brain
Mm.
fog was gone, inflammation eliminated. It was just fantastic. So
Isn't it wild?
so wild. So I know from your nutritionist background, and you're such a fantastic chef. I love the food. Like I can feel your energy infusing into the food. I always love to get when I'm doing retreats, get you to cater and all those things. So, um, walk us through kind of like the carnivore diet for someone who maybe doesn't know that what you found has worked for you.
So we'll backtrack for a moment to back when I was first diagnosed because that I went uh, vegan keto.
Mm.
So that's how I started there. And that is really, really hard to do. I'm not gonna lie. It's
Like going through lists of food in my head, I'm like, where would you even?
it's hard. You're basically just eating greens and vegetables that are non-starchy, and that's it. Um, it's really hard, but it's super powerful. I do not suggest it long term. That being said, I remained vegan for over a decade, which then amounted to multiple autoimmune disorders because I was depleting my body of minerals and nutrients unknowingly. Um, and like you said, I have a background in nutrition and I even got my certification in plant-based nutrition. So it's not that I was eating potato chips and Oreos and was like, why am I nutrient deficient? It was a shock to me. And that's when I started reintroducing animal products and I started feeling a bit better, but it still wasn't anything significant. And that's when I went carnivore. And that was when a huge light bulb went off in my brain because I realized that it wasn't necessarily the vegan aspect of it that helped me, it was the keto aspect of it that helped me the most. So I do believe that there are still certain times where the vegan keto is 100% potentially necessary for a short term. However, carnivore is amazing. And it's really easy to be in ketosis on the carnivore diet because as long as it's a high fat, because that's what you want. You don't want a high protein, low fat. You don't ever want low fat ever in your life, ever. High fat is optimal for your brain cells. It's optimal for your mitochondria. It's optimal for absolutely every part of your body. And fat is what puts you into ketosis. Low carb, high fat, average protein. It's amazing. It is absolutely life changing. And I've seen so many people reverse so many diseases that way. It's unfreaking believable. Yeah.
Amazing. It's as you were saying, you never want low fat. In my mind, the thought that came up was how fascinating is it to see the marketing in this
Oh my God.
world about what we should be eating, right? Low fat's best. And it's like it almost at this point, seeing and witnessing everything that's going on, it's almost as if they're purposely trying from our drinking water, which I know I learned about Berkey's from you, from our drinking water to, low fat everything to just the chemicals in our food and, the marketing to be better for you, those Beyond Meat burgers and
Mhm.
things like that. It's like
Mhm.
how like
Oh, I know.
how infuriating and at the same time mind-boggling. Like how do we escape that mindset? Because
It's,
a lot of it's so mental, right?
oh yeah.
With deprogramming all these
Oh yeah.
contradictions that we're
100%. It's a deprogramming. And I find that with our generation specifically, we kind of grew up when it was happening in
Hmm.
the middle of it. So it's really interesting to talk to people in our generation. And I find a lot of my clients are in our generation, um, because we grew up with the fat-free fad, right?
Yeah.
It happened during our childhood, basically, where they're demonized fat, and then they started demonizing animal products specifically. So a lot of us are super confused as to, well, what is healthy then? What
Yeah.
happened? Right? And when they remove the fat from products, they remove the flavor. So now they had to bring in processed flavors and sugar and all the other things that now are so amplified in our products that we shouldn't even be eating to begin with. And seed oils, of course,
Yeah. Oh.
right? Margarine, right?
I know
Who
I
does
came
not
from the
want
house
it?
that had like a big tub of margarine and canola oil, and I'm just like, oh
No.
my gosh, no, no, no. Like,
Right?
what's so bad
It's
about
just so
butter,
crazy.
right?
Nothing. There's nothing bad about butter.
It's like I just between and then I remember granola bars and having this epiphany years ago, being like, we were taught granola bars were good, and then I'm like, whoa, just like this moment of clarity. Where I'm like, what actually is in granola bars? Like, this is not healthy at all. I can't read half of these ingredients. What am I doing? And it's just like those slow moments where you know, but then you've become so indoctrinated into that mindset. You're just like, like even
Oh
I
yeah.
find myself even at the standing in front of ground beef, and I'm like, okay, let's check in here. What is like projected upon me that I need to have this ground beef, and like what's like so it's like I
Right?
just go to the farmer now and it's so much better and I feel so much more full and we have to watch
Mhm.
too because I find there is a lot of filler and chemical, especially in like hamburgers, being able to
Mhm.
make those things that we can in our own home. That's something that I've been integrating more of. Like if I don't need to buy pre-made hamburgers, I can make them and they taste so much better and they have half the
Wait, what?
unique, perhaps, right? Like we don't need to make those granola bars, right? Like I can curate a granola bar that's so much healthier for my kids for those grab and go days. And it's like, let's bring it back to an ingredient household rather than a pre-packaged, easily accessible household. And it's
100%.
and
Yeah.
potatoes, that was a big one. Like the big potatoes are bad for you. That was something just in the last year where I'm like, how are these bad for me? They're root vegetables. They feel when I eat them, for me, I'm very in tune with my body as I know you are. And it's like it feels soothing.
Mm.
So for you, when you find you're eating things too, how do you do those do you do check-ins like that to see what feels good? I know we have the knowledge base, but there's, like we said, there's more to us than one component of our body. So tell me a little bit about tuning into that intuition and how you choose or how you can tell that something's maybe not mixing with you opposed to the labs and the brain, that knowledge.
Yeah, that's a big one. Um, I think honestly, what was a huge shift for me was going carnivore. So I did it solid for more than 90 days. But I personally like to work in 90-day containers, but I think I did it for about 5 months myself. And then the best part about that is that when you start to reintroduce things, you really see what happens, how you react, and what you can and can't tolerate, and why. So, me personally, I have a huge issue currently that I'm working through with histamines, and my histamine response is just like crazy right now. Again, part of the autoimmune disorder. So, I personally can't eat potatoes. or any nightshades because they make me sneeze, they make my eyes all itchy and watery. It's crazy. I realized that actually when I was on a trip to Salem with my girlfriends, and I could not stop sneezing, and my eyes were just burning, and I was like, I'm allergic to Salem.
Go
And then I,
generations back.
right? I was like, no.
Really
um,
oh.
that's when I realized it was potatoes, and then I realized it's all nightshades. So um, it's moments like that where you're like, oh, I I am reacting to this particular thing, and then you go down that rabbit hole and see why am I reacting to this, and it depends. Sometimes it's a gut lining thing, right? Usually that's what it is with most people. Histamine intolerance, that's a big one with a lot of things. So there's so many aspects to that, but being able to tune into your body, you have to start at base zero usually to really be able to tune in. It's kind of like the elimination diet. You eliminate everything and add stuff back in, and then you can really tell. But the key is you have to eliminate it for long enough to reset your body,
Yeah, and I
right?
think that's the piece that we often miss. So I think we're
Mhm.
wanting such immediate results. We don't give ourselves enough time to actually heal and restore so that we can then efficiently start to reintroduce and tune in.
Exactly.
1 week isn't enough time
Mm-mm.
to do that.
No.
And I feel like we just want those immediates. And so what would you
Yeah.
say? Would you say the 90 days or what would you?
Personally, yeah, personally, I work in the 90-day container, and I like to say to people, if you were to start going to the gym, would you expect to see a difference after day one, after week one, after month one? Like it's a progressive thing that happens to your body. You're working out now. You will eventually see changes, but it's never instantaneous. And no one ever goes to the gym being like, oh, I'm done now. No, this
Right.
is good. Right? You
That's
keep going, you keep it up. It's the same with lifestyle changes. Nothing is going to change overnight. And
absolutely.
the thing to remember is that there's a major detox phase for a lot of people when they change their lifestyle, especially for people who are still on a fairly standard American diet. So things shift in that perspective quickly, and you're going to feel like trash for a while
Yeah.
because your body's not used to not eating that. So I like to work in 90-day containers. I feel like the 90 days is a really great reset button. After 90 days, most of your internal organs and cells and everything have rejuvenated. So it's a great place to start. After 90 days, we reevaluate. But also for me personally, within those 90 days, you're not doing the exact same thing for the 90 days. You have to start slow and take it phase by phase. And then again, reevaluate and see where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned and brought up that feeling like crap that for that first bit. I think for a lot of people that gets to be misinterpreted into this isn't for me or this isn't working.
Mhm.
Whereas really like we have to clean out the sludge. And in doing that, we're resetting the body. And sometimes that expulsion is uncomfortable and we have to
Mhm.
move through that discomfort to create a new way of being. What
Absolutely.
what do you notice? I know you work with a lot of people on their health. What's the one thing you notice that they feel when they're first starting their cleanse to clean up their lifestyle?
So usually they feel great right away in the sense of like all of a sudden their body's not being fully filled with toxins first thing in the morning, right? So they'll start to feel really great. Usually around day 3 or 4, things get kind of hairy and cravings come in, and slowly they're starting to eliminate. Um, week one can be the hardest for some people, but then other people will get to like week 7 or 8, and then it's called a secondary detox phase, or at least that's what I call it. And that time can be really challenging because a lot of your cells are regenerating and everything internally is happening. So a lot of people feel really tired or they start getting constipated, sort of things like that will start to happen because everything inside of you is now like, ooh, we can move and remove. Um, so it depends, but a lot of people generally feel really good.
Yeah.
There will be days when you feel terrible though, and you'll notice detox things happen. Like some people get rashes or acne or constipation, diarrhea. It really depends on the person. Everybody's different, but we always work through it to support those phases that you're going through because you don't want to be constipated. That's
No.
bad.
Yeah, I for many reasons.
Mhm.
I love that you support your clients so much. To me, I think to have that support, we should never have to heal alone. That's something I've said since day one. And I love that you've created these containers for individuals to come and work with you. And would you tell us a little bit about the work you do one-on-one with people?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel the same after going through cancer and many other things alone, realizing that a lot of people don't have any kind of support, whether it's in any sort of medical field or alternative field. A lot of people don't even have support within their own families. So a lot of people are legitimately entirely alone. Um, and that's heartbreaking. So that's why I started doing what I'm doing. That's even why I started the restaurant that I had in town before, because I wanted to share everything with everyone. That's always been me. I just want to share it with everyone. So, what I do now, I've been coaching for a long time, but now I've kind of shifted to a more in-depth coaching opportunity. So we do an initial consult, which is 60 minutes, and we do a deep dive into your history, into literally everything, your entire life. We talk about it, all your labs, your current diagnoses, all the things. And then I create a personalized protocol for that person, and it's a 90-day container, and there's phases throughout it depending on what they're working on. I very rarely will go straight into a detox though, because most people who come to me, I'm almost like a last resort. I've tried everything. I hear a lot. um, and a lot of times it's because no one has actually taken a look at the full picture and the root cause and diving so much deeper than most practitioners do, even in the alternative world. Um, so I hear that a lot. But yeah, so we create a 90-day container, a 90-day protocol, multiple phases throughout it. Each person has a different amount of phases. Like it just depends. It's so individual for each person. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But I work through homeopathy, traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism. I do tongue diagnosis, iridology, all the things. I love to combine it all. I've done a lot of studying on the Ayurvedic sciences, everything. But I don't ever believe that there's one thing that will cure anybody. That's why I love all the things and bring them all in together because they work well together as a team. And I love adding in all the things. But again, never all at once.
No, absolutely. And for me, having that collaborative approach with all the tools that you have in your toolbox and have accumulated and in-depthly studied, it reminds me of the importance of community, right?
Mhm,
We cannot heal everything with just one modality, like you said. So having that extension to bring in when it's suitable and when the timing's right is such a benefit to
mhm,
anyone who works with you. And I so appreciate what you're offering our community and in general the world, because I really truly think that this is the time. We are at this point where we're taking back control of our health and
mhm,
really owning where we're at and wanting to heal and be better and acknowledging that there is a different way to live and we don't have to suffer through our illnesses. We don't have to be chained to pharmaceuticals. There's sometimes there's other options and other ways and still collaboratively Western and Eastern or alternative or holistic medicines are fantastic. There's always like I'm sure, like if we need surgery or we break our bone, it's always nice to get it reset, especially if we have kids. If there's a car accident, I wouldn't want someone to do Reiki on me. I'd want to be seen
Yeah.
by a trauma physician for sure. But
Yeah.
I think right now, we don't have to get to the point of sick. We can really prevent it. And I think that's a wonderful
Absolutely.
thing once we learn. And I think a lot of what I see you share online is such beautiful teachings, even in the form of reels, like beautiful teachings that are really wakening us up to the fact that we can do these simple things in our day. You mentioned like was it like hydrogen peroxide or like baking soda, things like that. Simple, inexpensive little shifts that we can make that can start to make those micro shifts to make a um, macro shift. And didn't want to say shift again, but you know what? Here it is. Shift in our life. And I just appreciate you so much. My brain was just like, let's just pause for a second. I'm like seeing all like your reels for a moment. Like I'm so intrigued, and I'm sitting here thinking, it's doesn't surprise me that I started back on my carnivore a couple days ago because I'm like, you know what? Like yourself, the histamine is, I had a bunch of live and dry blood sampling done, and just seeing the histamine in those cells was just, okay, let's get back on track here. Let's go a little
Yeah.
bit deeper. We've gone through part A. Let's now go into part B, and I'm going to move into my like deep parasite cleanse next. I'm gearing up for that this coming week. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
I just appreciate how much you're sharing with the world because your voice means a lot, not just to me, but to, I'm sure, so many women and men in the society we're in now. And to be heard, like to truly sit with someone like yourself, Doris, and to be heard is such a gift that you give others. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. And for those of us who want to come in contact with you, who might be interested in learning more or maybe booking a session with you, how can
Mhm.
we reach you? And we'll put everything in the show notes as well, but how can
Oh,
we
yeah.
get hold of you?
Um, I'm currently still working on my website. It's under development, under construction.
Yeah,
It's
development,
being
construction.
rebranded. We're going through a rebrand right now. Um, but everything is on my Instagram, on my bio, on the tree link tree. It's
Thank you
all linked in there, all the options to like book in with me or find the books that I've written and all the things are there.
so much. Yeah,
Mhm.
such a plethora of knowledge. So I'll put that your handle in the show notes for anyone who's wanting to catch a glimpse of the work you do. And I want to say eat up those tools because now I'm like thinking about your amazing salad, your walnut blueberry salad. And I'm like, I would give for that again. So as can you tell it's lunchtime, right? And I was
Yeah.
fasting this morning, so I'm like, this is something that on my mind just to be real, real right now. So thank you, Doris, so much for being here. I appreciate you
Mm.
so much, and I can't wait to
Yeah.
see what comes in the future.
Well, thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate you asking me to be on your podcast.
So.